Everybody, happy Wednesday, happy Perfumer Q&A. We are here today to talk to Michelle Feeney, who is the founder of a wonderful disruptive brand called Floral Street, which I unveiled in one of the fragrances. Here she comes now. Here comes Michelle. Go. So here we go. Any second now she will appear, and I will either have to sit on an extra cushion or take one away because it's really hard to judge. Hello.
Hi, Jo.
Hello. You're tiny, I'm huge, but never mind.
I'm really about the same as you if I come in a bit further.
Yeah, come in a bit because we can hear you better if you do too. Hang on, I'm just going to grab something. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, our first home 14 and Nancy May. And yes, hello, all of you. Yeah, that's better. We can hear you better now. You might have to move even closer, but we'll get there. So, Floral Street. First of all, you look like you're just by a garden, which is appropriate enough for your brand. Where are you? We always like to set the scene.
I'm in St John's Wood, sunny St John's Wood. And this actually is the street in London. So I think, you know, in lockdown we stayed in London, and London has just literally blossomed. You know, it didn't have so many people. It's been amazing sensorial experience, really.
So if you're in St John's Wood, you're close to Regent's Park. So you've been walking around, looking at the Rose Garden and...
Yep, all of that, being inspired by London as the brand is, you know, but it was a kind of London, I must say.
Yes, a different kind of London. I wonder actually whether you could come up with a fragrance that captured...
Oh, I've lost you,
London
Jo.
Spring. Okay, well, I can hear you. I think if you can move just a little bit closer too. Your voice is quite faint.
I'm going to sit almost like I'm on a Zoom then in that case. Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. We can hear you better now.
Okay.
Now, if we rewind before you even started Floral Street, what was the beginning of your career? In fact, I think I knew you at the beginning of your career in PR.
You did?
So what made you want to work in fragrance and beauty?
Well, I started in fashion show production and this odd thing called PR in 1983 in central London. And I'd actually gone to Newcastle Polytechnic, and I'd lived with two fashion students, and I kind of didn't even know there was a fashion industry before then. And they moved to London and they said, come on down, you'd be really good at this thing called PR. It's a new thing. And I literally moved down, slept on my friend's floor, and I met an incredible woman called Leslie Goring.
Yes.
And come work for me. But that was caveated with for no money, as we did do in the 80s. And I literally was absolutely incredible to see. Pardon? Did somebody say something?
Well,
Sorry.
I've got a time lag with you. You went on a bit of a whirring wheel as well, but it will catch up in a moment. So you worked in PR, and then you went off to work for some very, very big brands and create some extraordinary ventures.
Yeah, but I think my first experience of beauty was backstage at shows where, you know, I was working alongside, I was taping the shoes, but I was working alongside amazing hairdressers and makeup artists, and that got me really interested in it. And then my first account as a PR was with Trevor Sorbie, and we got the products into Boots, and that's when I really fell in love with the industry. And knowing how products come together and what's important. And then I had an amazing journey working for Lynn Franks, who you know very well as well. And I set up a beauty division for her. And then I fell in love, and as you do, and moved to New York with my boyfriend. Had a plan. And then my first I met the owner of Bumble and Bumble. And he said, would you come work for me? And that's how the journey started. And I developed the products of Bumble and Bumble and launched them. And that's when Estee Lauder companies saw my work, and I got a phone call. And 10 interviews later,
wow,
I was offered, including Leonard Lauder himself and the lovely, amazing Jeanette Wagner. And I was offered a big job in prescriptives. Of course, the very famous fragrance for prescriptives was Calyx.
yes, absolutely iconic.
Iconic. And that's when I really started to learn about the beauty industry, everything within it, how big, how multifaceted it was, what kind of roles you could have within it. And Lauder had a phrase then that good work was rewarded with more work. Not necessarily. So I got handed this little pot of cream, and somebody said, can you do something with it? See what you can do with this. And it was creme de la mer, and I launched it. And that catapulted a whole new skincare movement.
Yeah.
And there was only 2 of us working on that at first. And then Lauder acquired MAC Cosmetics, and I spent 7 years launching 40 countries, traveling the world, creating what is the modern day MAC, working on the MAC AIDS Fund. And it was an incredible 7 years. And I learned so much.
And all these things, as an entrepreneur, that all these aspects of that have presumably fed into the setting up of Floral Street. I mean, in between, you happened to run and sell Saint-Tropez, and other highlights. But if we go to the kind of the birth of or the conception of Floral Street, what gave you the spark to set up a perfume house? Okay, well, I first of all had the idea that I was literally on Floral Street, which is a street in Covent Garden, which was the Victorian flower market. And I literally, honestly, just looked up at the street sign and thought that would be a great name for a fragrance brand. Yeah. For once in my life, I was in my late 40s. I thought, let's register this around the world and maybe have a go at doing it myself. Yeah. I then took a gap. I did start to conceptualize what it might be. And I had a friend of mine in New York take a look with me, a guy called Paul Austin, and he was helping me if it could even work as a fragrance brand. And then I took a gap year at 51, and I didn't know whether I wanted to do it, whether I had the guts to do it, number one. Yeah. Whether I wanted to do it, and number 3 is, did the world need another perfume or a piece of packaging? Yes. And in that year, I looked at the world of fragrance with really fresh eyes, because I'd actually never worked within it so deeply. And I saw a gap. I saw that there was too much packaging, that the advertising hadn't moved on at all, that really the fragrance industry, apart from the very high end part of it, was expecting a consumer to part with quite a lot of money for not very much in return. And I decided to do it differently. And so I jumped in and just started, basically. And the premise was that certainly the packaging would be more sustainable, and actually everything would be accessibly priced. Yes. Because I think you've hit a kind of sweet spot between the very mass, if you like, high street store fragrances, the M&S's of this world. And obviously then you make a kind of giant leap in fragrance to 80 quid, 120 quid, 240 quid. And you've got this sort of, it's a treat, but it's not going to mean that you have to walk to work all month to pay for it, you know. Or Joe, what shocked me when I started researching myself was the fact that people would say, I keep it for best, because it had
money. And the whole idea for me was to bring, you know, fragrance into an experimental role, place in people's lives where they could learn and afford to experiment with fragrance, rather than just think, oh my God, it's the best and I keep it on my shelf
Yeah.
and have it for years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously you had a name, Floral Street, and it did kind of beg to be flowers. But flowers in fragrance have had this slightly fusty, musty image. It's kind of your granny's knicker drawer.
Yep.
Or it's a safe fragrance category. It's what traditionally you might buy somebody when you weren't sure what to buy them. But
Yep.
you've kind of exploded all of that and done it differently, haven't you? And explain to me what your thinking was with creating a brand that was basically around florals.
Okay, well, the difference for me, because I hadn't really been in the fragrance industry, I didn't have any preconceived ideas about anything, which I think was a real advantage, because overly bent on the fact that people wouldn't like florals. I didn't know people even didn't like florals, if you know what I mean. But the analogy I always use is, we say we're a modern British brand and we're about bunches of flowers. Britain, you know, especially at the moment, you pick them from the garden, you forage a bit, you tie them together with string, you put them in a jam jar, you know, and an informal way of looking at the beauty of flowers. And a bouquet, which is a good analogy for fragrance, is very much more formal and, you know, beautiful still, but much more formal.
Yeah.
So I informalize.
Yeah.
And then we met, you know, I got introduced to Robertet, who are the fragrance house, and the incredible Jerome Epinette. And he really understood what I was trying to do. And because of his knowledge, he was so happy that I wasn't saying to him, I absolutely want this or this or this. I just said, here's my mood muses, 6 of them there was, go create. And he was able to modernize the floral. And and that for me was where it all came together. You know, I'd visualized it. I'm not a nose. I don't pretend to be a nose. I'm certainly learning a lot more as I've evolved this. But it was my vision with his creativity, and it created this very modern floral where you're drawn in by the beauty of the floral on the packaging, but then you're really surprised when you smell it, you know?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And how does it work with Jerome? I mean, not every fragrance house just sticks with one perfumer. You know, many have a kind of whole portfolio of fragrances, but you must have a very close working relationship with him. I mean, does he kind of almost psychically now know what you want because it's been a while?
Yes, but we're working together on new projects even in lockdown. You know, I've been on Zoom with him, and I know about his life and how he tests things with his wife at home, and we have become really, really, you know, a really kind of close, beautiful working relationship. And I think for him, because he does so many, as you know, different fragrances for different companies, for him, this he has a sense of freedom that I give him, because I'm not saying that, you know, the largest selling fragrance at the moment has vanilla in it, we need a vanilla. Yes. And I ask and seek his advice. So it's a creative collaboration rather than be, you know, quickly create the next big one, will you, you know? And Robertet I want to stick with because we are a sustainable vegan brand, and they own the majority of the natural resources within perfumery, the land, they supply the other houses. And so I feel I'm sort of on the cutting edge of the ingredient side of things and how I can deliver that to the customer.
Absolutely. You know? I mean, do you feel, I think we certainly feel at the Perfume Society that when we come out of this experience with COVID, you know, there is a new set of values. People are looking at how things are done differently, and we've got this amazing opportunity to kind of reinvent things. I mean, I'm sure that you didn't have exactly this in mind 3 years ago or however long it was, but you happen again to, almost with your crystal ball, have kind of seen the direction that the world was moving in. So what, you just felt that there wasn't enough being done for sustainability in the fragrance world?
Yeah, I mean, there was almost nothing. There was little independent brands, which I hugely admire, that were working with pure natural. And you know, but I think how you change things, if you look at the brands I've worked on, you know, and had the honor to be part of their brand journey to become really big brands, I mainly cult brands, I call them, you know, they've all been game changers. I tell a lot of the younger people that work for me, you know, before Mac, there was not a tool belt in sight.
Yes.
On the department store floor or in a store. And Mac made the makeup artist a bona fide career to have. And about the teaching of makeup, you know, Bumble and Bumble was recyclable packaging we did in 1993. And
Wow.
if you look at packaging with the writing on, nobody was doing that kind of thing then. So I think I looked at the fragrance world and I just thought they literally have stood still for a long time, what they're expecting from the consumer. And, you know, it is all that, what they call in America fourth quarter, so that Christmas business where you pump up the volume on your commercial where all my clothes fall off, I get the guy or the girl, you know. And I think the modern consumer, you know, wants to learn. And I call it connoisseurship of fragrance. And because I wasn't from the industry, I could see what I felt it was missing.
Yes.
To bring the joy and the learning that is within fragrance. And you're right, lockdown, we have, our business has exploded online. Who knew would be experimenting online with fragrance, you know?
Yes.
And it's,
but you got,
only, you know,
what you understood too. I mean, you know, we sell your discovery sets on the Perfume Society, you sell discovery sets, you know, this realization that people really, they want to try things on themselves before they splash out and buy the full size. You know, we've seen that for the last 6 years, but I think that moving forward, it's going to be even more important because, you know, I mean, I don't know how you're going to do it in your shop in Floral Street, but I know that in big department stores, people aren't going to be able to actually touch a tester. There are going to be no fragrance testers because every single one will have to be sanitized after use, and it's just a logistical nightmare. So this way of sampling fragrance is going to be the way forward, at least in the short term. And you know, our feeling is that it is the future, if you like.
Well, I think you know, you have to, we are thinking round, we've got some really exciting things to launch eventually with you, Jo, in the very near future, of how we're doing things very differently. I've used lockdown, you know, when I interviewed with Leonard Lauder originally to go into Lauder, and I didn't quite know what I was getting into, you know, and he said to me, we want you for your entrepreneurial spirit company. And that was because they were acquiring new companies and they wanted somebody to think differently and see differently. And what I've used lockdown for is to really become a better business person. You know, I'm learning all the time. What I love, you know, I'm about to be 57 in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, every day is a new learning. And lockdown's been very challenging as owning your own company, trying to keep it together, trying to still plot a future. But the learnings from it and the laser sharp focus you have been brilliant. And the reaction that we're getting from customers, and I think you're absolutely right. Now, a little sample vial is going to be, it is the key to everything anyway. I didn't realize this, but it's even more the key. And I think what we'll be doing in John Lewis is lots more samples that people can pick up and take, and into technology and scent release and how we can do it in an organic way that is sustainable in our business, that we're going to able to express in a very simple way, you know, our fragrances. Another thing I saw was, you know, we say, who will you be today? And it's about, you know, the mood board, what you're wearing, that becomes even more important. You know very well we don't use the word sexy in the brand at all, but we use incredibly powerful words that I hope will inspire people to want to buy. And, you know, we launched Sephora this year in America, and we went to a brand summit in February before lockdown. And again, I felt like I was entering a new world of learning about their customers and what they respond to, how they respond. So for me, you know, we've all had a lot of challenges. Your career just happened, but right now, as a businesswoman, it's challenging, but so exciting as a fragrance company to say, how do we do this differently? You know,
are you reopening your store next week? Just out of interest, your brick and mortar store.
The week after, we're opening the store, and I'll be honest with you, it was touch and go. The rent there is high. A lot of people are going out of business, but I went to visit it this week, and I was so filled with warmth that I could reopen it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to take that out digitally to people, you know, that experience.
Well, in fact, Amanda from We Wear Perfume just put a comment about kind of bringing the digital experience brand. You know, now I think all brands are going to have to think about how they project differently on the internet. It's not just enough to have a bottle, you know, it's got to be more than that. What's been the biggest surprise for you owning a perfume house? And in terms of what your customers went for, what has surprised you?
I mean, I think, I don't know about surprise. I think what I've learned is, you know, that people, and you all know this, but I mean, I think people have been almost afraid to experiment. And they would enter the store and say, oh, I really don't like florals. Oh, I really don't like vanilla. And when they were drawn to the bottle and we sprayed it, they're like, oh my God, this is my favorite. And what I think is, because there's such a lack of education for most people about fragrance, they're almost a bit nervous of it and they cut themselves off, you know?
Yes.
That's been an amazing, you know, I wanted this brand to surprise yourself because I personally have surprised myself. I would have been one of those people that said, I don't like vanilla. I would have. And then Jerome comes up with this wild vanilla orchid, and it is, you know, bloody brilliant fragrance, and I wear it, and so I'm enjoying surprising myself, and I think that keeps me on the connected road to the consumer, you know, because they're feeling the same thing.
One of the questions that came in was, what fragrance would you like to add to your lineup? But, you know, one of the things about today is we're going to give people a little sneaky peek of, yes, you know, I wish we had smell-o-vision. But I've got the bottle here of, and for anybody who doesn't know the Floral Street packaging, you get this gorgeous photographed outer box, and then you open it up and you get what I use as a seed tray, with your fragrance inside it. So we have the newest fragrance to smell, and it is Arizona Bloom, and I know that you are particularly in love with this one yourself. There it is.
Isn't it
what is it about it that you particularly love? Because I know you do really adore this.
You know, I feel after working with Jerome for 2 years now, I have more knowledge and more confidence about being part of maybe even, you know, that process. And it started, I was flying from LA to New York across, you know, you fly across the desert there, and I looked down and I'm looking through magazines and I was seeing a lot of fringing, and I thought, oh my God, urban cowgirl, how about in the desert? and then I went to oh my God, we went last year to the Atacama Desert in Chile. and it's the driest desert in the world. And I just felt so inspired by this dryness and the beauty of and the clarity of the desert.
Yeah.
And what that would smell like. And so I got very inspired, and I put a mood board together, which is, this is a small version. I've got the very big version. There's 6 own shots.
I love your mood boards.
Yeah. And I went to see Jerome in New York, and I said, I want it to be high altitude. Can we do high altitude? And he did it. And he's pulled it. And it's absolutely stunning. I think you'll agree. I think it's, you know, it's beautiful. And every time we do these fragrances, we're trying to get better and better. And this coconut that's in this one is Balinese coconut, but it's a CO2 extraction process, which is better for the environment. But I'm learning, it makes a really clearer smell.
Yeah, it doesn't smell like a Bounty bar.
No.
It really doesn't smell like a Bounty bar.
No. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, what I'm fascinated by is that Jerome has captured the dryness of that environment. And I think one of the kind of marvels of perfumery, one of the things I find most awesome is that you can, with something that is essentially a liquid, you can create a sense of wetness or dryness, and you can create a temperature. So, you know, you can create things that smell hot or smell cold. How can you, I mean, that to me is the magic of being a perfumer, is to make those things happen.
Never like that, but you're right. And you know, he'd put salted musks in this. Now you've got a long history in chocolate, you know, who'd have thought you could have put salt in chocolate and sell it to like, how do you put salt into a fragrance? And these salted musks give it an almost like wet on the skin feel.
Yeah.
The richness. So I guess the more I'm understanding, the more you can tell I'm just so excited about. And we did step back off the gas and thought, should we not launch this because of COVID? But this is exactly why we need it. You know, this high altitude, this freedom. You put it on and you're transported somewhere else, and it lifts your spirits, you know.
You did delay us a couple of months, I think, or delay us a few weeks, because it was just, you know, nobody knew which way up the world was at that point. But it's launching now or imminently?
And we're doing exclusive with John Lewis from the 1st of July. We're doing a digital launch. So I think somebody asked a question about digital. We've had to get good at digital. You've got no option. If you want to stay alive and be able to do things, you've got to express digitally. And then John Lewis wanted it exclusively, like they did Electric Rhubarb, and they're very behind us. And then we go into Selfridges, where we launched during lockdown. How about that? Online, and then it rolls into Sephora, and it rolls into Australia, into Mecca. And as a small brand that has to do a lot with not a lot of budget, because you know I'm funding it myself, this is an opportunity to go quickly in where other brands might be not going in because they're a bit.
Well, almost so many launches have been pushed back to the second half of the year. You know, it's been real musical chairs, and I have to say, getting the last issue of the Scented Letter out was a challenge, because literally the launch landscape was changing every single day, and things were in and out like Jack in the Boxes. So you know, I think it's a great time to launch right now, because actually a lot of people have taken their foot off the gas and have played safe and are pushing their launches back. And you know, we all need some bloody excitement.
Well, I think so. And you know, our partners are telling us, you know, fragrance sales are up, and unsurprisingly so are home fragrance. So I've been working during lockdown on another 9 new candles with Jerome. You know, stuff's back and forth, and you know, and more than ever, I think people do want newness, but they don't want it to cost the earth in so many. Not the packaging, but also not money wise. You want to be able for to buy a 10 ml if you want for, you know, £4 and feel good. And days when I call it Zoom again, but you know, on those days when you're zooming all day, you know, you need to lift your spirits. I've been using electric rhubarb because it really does lift.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think perfumers just have this magical way of weaving things together, and more than ever we need to take our minds to other places, you know, at the moment.
We have a plea actually from Sam Scriven at I Sent You a Day. Will you do bar soap, please? I mean, obviously soap's become massively important in our lives now and is likely to be for the foreseeable future. Do you have any plans for soap, please?
We did, and we were looking into it, and we got quite long process, but because people are not wanting the bar soap, they're wanting the liquid soap right now. So I think it would be unwise of me to invest in it right now, but watch this space, because over the next years I really want to bring this brand to life in the home arena, because you want flowers, you want things to smell good, and we're working at the moment on that. So
home is going to be so much more important to us moving forward. I mean, you know, we're all working remotely at the Perfume Society. We have always kind of worked remotely, but now everybody is working from home. You know, you've got Twitter saying you never have to come to the office again, you know. So our homes are going to be, I think, even more at the heart of our lives than they were. And everyone's looking around going, if I'm going to spend 24 hours a day here, I want this to be nice, you know. So scented candles, I think, and home fragrance are going to be absolutely enormous. Again, just talking about that price thing, I mean, you know, after this, what do you think is the future of the £240 fragrance?
Look, I mean, there's always a market for that. Look at the skincare market. There's always a market for that. And there's some exquisite perfumers out there, you know. I mean, I think, you know, how I got really hooked on fragrance was when I was in Paris for Fashion Week with Mac, and I went to Serge Lutens' Palais Royal store, and you sat down on a sofa, and I just thought, oh my God, I've just fallen in love with it. And there was no going back for me. You know, I of course have still got other fragrances that I you know, haven't been used in my wardrobe, but I have been told by other people in the industry we're really in the sweet spot, and I think there's always going to be a place for an expensive perfume. But I think, to me, as a consumer looking on the outside in, I think sort of gone a bit crazy on pricing, because they felt that a Chinese consumer in China or a traveling wealthy consumer from another country would pay whatever, and they're not traveling anymore. And guess what? China isn't the, you know, the premium market is seeing that growth. So again, I try and see things a little bit down the line, and luckily I had priced it at this point. Other people in the industry were saying to me before I did this, why are you going in at that price point? Why aren't you going, niche is growing, you know? And I'm like, no, I want it for real people to be able to enjoy. So I think we're going to get more of that. I think people won't have much money to spend, and lockdown has also made them look at what they value in life as well. And I think, you know, I've been saying it for a couple of years, but I think less is more will be the future. And what you want to be really have a connection with you.
Well, I think also, I mean, everyone is talking about the role of you know, flowers and nature, and we want that connection. It's been the great solace, I think, of lockdown. I don't know how they have coped in countries that are going into winter, but the joy of the spring here, and being surrounded by peonies and roses and sweet peas, and you know, if captured that in a bottle for people. But what do you think of the, I mean, you have refillable. I was going to say, move on to other trends that you think might happen in the next couple of years in the fragrance world. You've got a refill station at Covent Garden. That I think is going to be a big trend. What else do you think we might see happening?
I mean, I hope that, you know, the more technology that comes into fragrance, in a way, I don't mean technology like you and I talking right now, but I mean extraction, using kind of less ingredients and better ingredients. I think we're going to have, because of the very thing you've just said about this connection with nature, which even for me, I've had 3 months in my house. I'm lucky to have a lovely garden, but you know, we really noticed it was like hyper real this year, the blossom.
Yeah.
Different smells and the planning and watching nature. So I think you're going to see a lot more people wanting a lot more nature, but in order to do that in a fast-moving technological world, we're going to have to, you know, these extraction, the way we extract scents and the way we use them. I think there'll be for the fragrance houses and ingredients, I think a lot of people are going to start growing ingredients more. And I do know that Robertet have been replanting the bitter orange tree grass, which had almost disappeared. You know, I think you're going to see a lot more nature come in, but married with technology. And that's what I've always said about fine fragrance. You know, it is a blend of technology and future with incredible ingredients. So I can only see that sort of growing more, really.
Working with Jerome, I mean, where is he? He's based in New York, isn't he?
He is.
So normally I imagine you would kind of have lots of samples sent back and forth, etc. Now, if you're working on future projects, has that been happening in lockdown? I mean, does he have access to a lab? And
he does. He's been in the lab, poor thing. I've been Zooming him, the only person in the office, and then a technician in the lab. And we have been having things come back and forth and back and forth. And because of lockdown, I've really been able to focus a lot more, to be honest. And then I've got, you know, my technician here as well, my 16-year-old daughter, and she's been testing stuff out. And, you know, so it has... I think a lot of projects are on hold as well. So again, I've used it as an opportunity to have a bit more of his time to help us.
Yeah.
We are going to do a live scent school with him on Arizona Blue.
Oh wow! When will you make sure we know when that's happening?
Planning it and how, but he's agreed, and so we want to do it together on Arizona Blue because. You know, his inspiration and how he's used new ingredients, I think at the moment are really a good story. So he's agreed to do that. So
I think that's the other trend that you've tapped into with Floral Street, is this scent school, is the idea that people want to learn much more about fragrance and they want to kind of deep dive into this extraordinary world. And we had Emmanuel Moglin from Experimental Perfume Club on recently, and it's the same kind of vibe, you know. We want these experiences. How do you think they'll have to be digital for a while? We just don't know when we're going to go back to face to face.
We're going to launch something on hopefully August 1 that will bring both together. And I've been, you know, I wouldn't have said this at the beginning that we could have done it so soon, but what happened, I got asked to do a training of Sephora, and we'd sent ahead, you know, the discovery sets and everything. We were able to do it, and I was so excited by it and having all these questions come in. I think we just have to. It was like my whole world has just suddenly gone. We've got to make this work, and education is kind of easier. It would have taken me 2 weeks to travel 600 people, whereas I did it all in one go. So I think we'll see a lot of that. And God, I'm so proud. The Fragrance Foundation in the USA, did digital announcements of finalists, and we are a finalist in Best Packaging of the Year.
Fantastic.
Our little brand, and you know, mega universe that is the USA, up against Kylie Jenner and all sorts of different ones. But you know, that's what gives me heart, that I'm on the right step with the sustainability as well, Jo, because sometimes it's really hard to be a small company and a bit ahead of the curve, you know. But when you start to get recognized by your industry, you helped us so much at the beginning. I mean, you launched us, you've championed us. What you were doing was is still, but so new and incredible, of how you're speaking to your society members, you know. And you know how hard that is sometimes. We haven't got the big bucks. We haven't got the, you know, the influence as much as we would like. So for me, when I really truly get recognised like that, even if I don't win, it doesn't matter. I've won. You know? It makes me feel that I'm on the right track.
Oh, and it's so good for team spirit, you know. I mean, we've got, I think, something like 9 or 10 literary award nominations, which we're waiting to hear about because the ceremonies have been postponed. But those came in literally right at the beginning of lockdown, just when everyone was kind of crying into their pillow, and it was like, it just absolutely turned the mood around. You know, you have to celebrate the things. Do you think, I mean, you've always been a globetrotter as long as I've known you, but do you actually feel that you will kind of dial down on the traveling yourself now that it's become possible to do so many things remotely? Or do you need that stimulation of going to foreign places and soaking it in? Or do you just want to spend a bit more time at home?
Okay, so I, of course, had come off in February. I was in San Francisco, Seattle, Pennsylvania, Miami, and back. And I got back exhausted, you know, and you were really feeling something was changing and something. And I just thought, oh my God, I don't want to travel again. After 2 months of lockdown, I'm like, when can I get on a plane again? I think what I need is, I see and feel things when I'm traveling, and it helps me sew together what I think might be a trend or what I think we need to do. And, you know, without that, I am challenging where am I going to get my inspiration? But maybe, you know, it is in my garden now, and I'm drawing from that a little bit more. I definitely don't want to spend the money I was spending as a brand to travel and train if I can do it on Zoom. Although at the end of the Zoom, all the people in Canada said, when can we meet you? When can we see you? So element, I think it will be a lot less travel for both my husband and myself. And I'll think carefully about where I'm going, and it's better for the environment. I've known that all. You know, and we've beauty in Scotland, and where, you know, you're down, you know, by the seaside in Hastings. I mean, I think hopefully people will look at their own environments and say, wow, this is pretty beautiful, like London. You know.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, the parks have been an absolute lifeline for friends of mine who've lived in London. They don't know what they would have done if they couldn't get out into that environment. You almost, I mean, I know you're about flowers, but you almost need to do something. I see that gorgeous green hedge behind you, or trees or whatever, but that extraordinary kind of London privet smell that you get in the air at this time. Privet is an amazing, it's not a very sexy ingredient, but I often wonder why nobody makes it into a fragrance, because it's the most gorgeous flower.
Well, watch this space, because not privet, but I have been inspired by our lockdown visits with the dog. We live in North London, so we've been on Hampstead Heath, we've been on Primrose Hill, we've been in Regent's Park. I have been inspired, and I think, you know, examining, you know, again with this digital, imagine if you could capture that crispness of privet in amongst a fragrance, you know. I think that's what I'm seeing. So I'm expanding my being locked down in a way, in a different way. So I think less travel and more local probably will come.
And the Floral Street team, are you going to keep them remote? I mean, obviously you have a shop, so people have to be there when you have a service business, but do you think you'll all be working slightly more remotely in future?
Well, we were working like you. We were all working out of my house, and we expanded. Okay. I moved into a WeWork, and now we've moved out of the WeWork, and I think what this has given everybody, we miss being human together. We really do. But everybody has said, even, you know, Chelsea, who has worked with me since the beginning, she's, you know, in her early 20s, and she asked me to come back to an office 5 days a week. I wouldn't want to now. I think everybody has found their pace within their day. They can exercise more, they can eat more healthily, it costs them less money. But there's certain things, Jo, I don't know about you, that I don't think come to me without human contact, and that's the real creativity at the table.
Absolutely. The brainstorming is not possible over a Zoom. You know, it's great for getting the work done and catching everybody up to speed with what you're doing, etc. But that, I think that the screen just blocks out that creative spark that you get from human beings.
It's true.
You know, you get rock stars talking about the energy that they get from their audiences when they're standing on stage, and I think that human energy we convey in a kind of 1-to-1 or 5-to-1 setting that you just can't. It's my phone in my house which I can't switch off, but someone else is going to get it. So I think we'll need that face to face.
We will start working from home, and then but we're still going to come together in back in my house again, or in a third space. You know, I mean, you could actually hire a room for cheaper than you can have an office. And do that. And I think the store I have reimagined, and it will be our content creation. I'm launching into QVC in America in August, and we're doing live from the store with me. You know, how brilliant is that? I could store, you know, on a set in Pennsylvania. So I've really just thought, how do I reimagine this? How do I bring the energy of that store out to people and tell the story, you know?
Amazing. And you don't have to get on a plane and get jet lag, and that's absolutely extraordinary. That's a major shift, you know, in the world. I mean, I feel really excited to have lived through this time when I feel it is just as significant as the Industrial Revolution, basically, only happened a lot quicker. You know, the complete kind of workplace revolution.
It is the fourth Industrial Revolution. And when I was on the West Coast of America in February, I really felt it there, Jo. There was this, not just all the divides that America brings, but there was a digital divide. You know, it's forging ahead in a different way on the West Coast, which is reacting societies. You have to react quickly, and I'm with you. I had to psych myself up during this and say, what do I need to let go of? A bit like when you clean out your closet and you've kept in there and you go, oh no, I can't quite let go. We really have now to let go to go to the future.
Indeed, the charity shops of Britain are going to be marvellous places to have a mooch in weeks to come. But I think the great thing about fragrance, and that's probably why sales have increased during lockdown, is that it somehow grounds us in our bodies again. You know, the thing about the digital world is it kind of all happens from there up or there up. And fragrance, because it's a sensory pleasure, kind of reconnects us with our bodies and tethers us to the world. And I think that we need that more than ever, because we're spending so much time online.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's, you know, I'd originally said with Arizona Bloom, but, you know, nomadic and spirited in yourself, you know, and you don't have to travel. My whole idea on this one was that you don't have to to be free spirited. You know, cycling down Regent Street when there's no traffic is a euphoric experience. You know, I mean, it's finding that in, and I think you're absolutely right. Fragrance grounds us. It also connects us back to being human via this, you know, via technology, I think.
Yeah, yeah. What I'm still curious to go back to some of your favorite smells that maybe aren't bottled. What are the smells that you smell that ground you and make you feel happy, and or make you feel happy? But they could be things like coffee. They could be things like bacon frying or privet or whatever.
For me, there's lots of, coffee is a very good one, because again, linking to memory, but you know, every morning that I worked in New York, I was there for 13 years, and you go out on the street, you grab your cup of coffee. It used to be just the garden, and the smell and the energy, and it was an incredible time in my life, and that connects me. You know, there's many things like that ground, and I didn't even know in my own garden that I had gardenia. You know, and then I'm out there, get this early whiff, and I'm like, oh my god, that reminds me. You know, I say that's my earliest scent memory of being at my grandma's in Ireland, great grandma's, and smelling gardenia. So I think my sense of smell has been heightened. I don't know about you, since working in and your ability to, and I also, you know, I do love the brand Neal's Yard, and I do, I've got a massive collection of their essential oils, and I do yoga every morning, and I blend different things, and I'm learning in that way. You know, they're an amazing brand. And the joy of fragrance, I think we need also as British fragrance houses or brands, you know, we need to feel that we have something to contribute here in a big way, you know, to the world of fragrance. And we've got, you know, a lot of inspiration that comes from Britain. So I think I do have, I'm very sensitive to smell, and I do have things that really lift my spirits. And then other things, I got asked, what's the worst smell, you know, for you? And it's actually, you know, when you go into an office and everybody's on their computer and it's very dry and arid, and that, for me, that sums up technology and how it saps your energy.
Yeah. I heard a wonderful analogy this morning while I was listening to Holly Tucker's podcast with Mother Pucker, and she was talking about how offices really, it's a different, so what we're doing now is we're free range, whereas we were battery hens in offices, you know, with the under the lights, with, you know, on a desk with walls around us, and we've gone free range, and I loved that analogy. Brilliant
analogy.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. When can we find this gorgeous thing on your website? And I think we're doing something.
We're in your summer box. So that's coming up pretty, I think. So you're the, you know, everybody. And then online with us, I think it's happening in the next 2 weeks. There's a sort of a VIP unveiling over the next couple of weeks. And then from the 1st of July, it's available, John Lewis online. And for the first time, we're launching also, you know, we've got 3 sizes. We've got 100 ml, 50 ml, and 10 ml.
Okay.
And
right from the very beginning.
I think so. I'm pretty sure I'll probably get shot by marketing because the 50 the might be slightly less. But we have gone into 100 mils because what we found is, although mini is the future in lots of ways, once you do love something, you do want that 100.
Yes. Yeah. So have you got 100 ml of Sheep for Sublime?
Yes, and you will be the first to receive it. And know how many I quote you all around the world, and whenever I'm doing an interview and I'm like, she's the premier fragrance journalist in the world and she likes this one, you know, look her up.
I do. I think it's absolutely amazing, and it passes the taxi driver test when you get in a cab and people say, "What are you wearing, love?" You know. And in fact, actually, a tip for everybody out there: next time you're in a taxi, engage the cab driver in a conversation about perfume. They are so knowledgeable because literally they've had everything in the back of their cab, and they get really interested in what the smell is like. But actually, something we've been discussing in the office is the
Sorry, I've lost.
But because we're not meant to be close to each other, we're going to want kind of more intimate smells rather than big smells. That, because like, if you smell my perfume, are you too close to me? What do you think on that front?
Well, I think if you look at the global marketplace, and I remember my first trip to Japan, when my first job with Lauder, they are very much of that. They don't want you to be pushing your smell onto them, and they spend a fortune on car air fresheners that are very big. So it's all this personal space thing. I think maybe the subtlety, but I don't think a Middle Eastern somebody that's come from that culture loves the bigness of fragrance.
Yeah.
But again, maybe that's where technology helps, and where if you're in the house, where a lot more home fragrances can help.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's going to be the case. Anyway, we're coming to the end of our hour. It's gone very quickly. It's so nice to see you. 61 miles away or whatever it is, but yeah, so much luck with the new one. We're all waiting, and we're fascinated to see where Floral Street goes, because as it's right up the street of the modern shopper. So thank you for your time, and everybody, this will be appearing on our website once we get it uploaded. And we will keep everybody in the loop on the Perfume Society website and our Instagram with the launch of Arizona Bloom. So thank you.
Big hug. Bye.
Big hug. Yeah. Bye.